Hello. Welcome to Season 8 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is Make the Wives Pick. Since our wives have to watch these movies with us every week, and often complain about it, we made them pick the movies this season. If you want to see the list of upcoming films and follow along, check out our website at thehorrific.com. Thanks for listening. So, I think this movie is one disintegration, retcon away scene from being in the same cinematic universe as It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Oh. And I feel like it's much better if you go into it with that expectation.
That's a very good point. And I do have to say this. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of the greatest shows of all time.
Yeah, this is like a prequel. Like when Frank really became Frank.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I can't believe this movie came out the same year as Independence Day. Isn't that crazy?
That is extremely crazy.
Like, because I feel like there were a lot of very similar elements.
Yeah.
But they came out within like a few months of each other. And so I really don't think it was like one was meant to be a spoof of the other or anything. I think that they just happened to be similar. Well, not similar, but they happen to be movies about a similar premise. So there must have been something in the air in like late 95, early 96 about alien invasions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we could probably look back and figure it out. But yeah, that's like it took off.
Yeah. And it must have been because like, so this was a Tim Burton movie and it starred like every 90s celebrity.
Yeah.
Like as this went on, I could not believe the number of people that I saw. And I was like, oh, that person was either really famous at the time or became really famous shortly after.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't like a huge hit movie,
right? You know,
for that level of star power versus like how much money it made. That's weird to me.
Yeah. If you look at like the credits at the beginning, it was like, it got to the point where you're like, there's no way that that's the case. Like, there's no way that all these people are in this movie. But, yeah, it kept, I was like, surely, like, this is going to be a spoof. And they're just going to be like, just
we
kidding.
We thought the same thing. Yeah.
It's like, surely that's not, and no, sure enough, they were.
Yeah. It was a very weird experience. Had you seen this one before?
I've seen bits and pieces over the years. Same. Not ever the whole movie.
Yeah, I think I'd seen parts of it on like TBS or TNT in between commercial breaks back when that was a relevant cultural reference. So it's but this was one that Sarah watched when she was younger, and for whatever reason it stood out in her mind as not particularly scary, but just a movie that was sort of in the realm of like aliens and death. And so thought that would be a good one to add. And going back to it, she was not particularly impressed.
Really?
I know that because she fell asleep for part of it. So.
Well, yeah, but if it was just one sleep, like one nap during it, because well, she still liked it then. Once you throw in a couple naps, that's when you know.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think you could probably sleep through a decent part of this movie and still not miss anything. So.
100%.
But we will get into that more. I'll do my intro, and then you can do your fun facts, and then we will dissect the guts of this gem of a movie. In 1996, Warner Brothers brought us Mars Attacks, a sci-fi comedy horror directed and produced by Tim Burton. This movie starred Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Sarah Jessica Parker, Michael J. Fox, Tom Jones, Natalie Portman, and a very young Jack Black. And it was based on a trading card series of the same name. The film tells the story of a violent conflict between Martians with advanced technology and the people of Earth. It was made on a budget of $70 million and brought in about $101 million at the box office. You know, back when those were still a thing. You can currently stream it at no extra charge on HBO.
So, one of the questions you might have for yourself, why did so many celebrities join the cast?
I have asked myself that question.
Basically, we can thank Jack Nicholson for it. So, going through all the people that you just listed, when the casting process began for Mars Attacks, which is just kind of strange to say like Mars Attacks because it always has an exclamation point, so I always pause after. But when it began, it struggled to attract any players with serious marquee value. Gems blamed this on G-E-M-S blamed this on the fact that most of its characters either die in some cartoonish manner or end up disfigured. Agents didn't want to see their star agents or star clients playing loser roles, and a lot of big acts passed on it, he said. At one point, we thought we were going to have to cancel the film. The guy who saved our butts was Jack Nicholson. According to Burton, he got Jack Nicholson to join Mars Attacks from the very start. After sending Jack Nicholson the script, Burton gave him a call while location scouting, asking which part do you want, which is pretty sweet to have. Just get the call, hey, which part do you want? Nicholson replied, how about all of them? In the end, he was double cast as the President, Dale, and the sleazy Vegas businessman. One word got around that Nicholson would be involved. Other celebs lined up to join the ensemble. We started getting requests from more stars than there were parts for, Jims wrote. It was like a tidal wave when Jack came on. Which makes sense, like, he's like a complete legend.
Yeah. He definitely still had a lot of street cred and had been in some very successful movies at this time. So it's like, well, if he's doing it, how bad could it be?
Yeah. So Danny Elfman's score was a musical tribute to the golden age of sci-fi cinema. Elfman, who provided the soundtrack for every previous Tim Burton film, with the exception of Ed Wood, gave Mars Attacks some decidedly old-school background music. The goal was to invoke 50s that sci-fi sound that Tim and I both grew up on, he told Vulture magazine. To pull this off, he made liberal use of one of history's first electronic instruments, the theremin. I won't go into who invented the theremin. It's an interesting instrument. I feel like it's also like just an instrument people have to show off for the most part.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so he went to the theremin to create the soundtrack for it, which was, I appreciate using that other than showing off. Or maybe he used that to show off to the 100,000 people that watch this. Here's a fun fact too. So you've kind of hit the nail on the head a couple times with this. Independence Day owes its title and part of the premise to Mars Attack. So Mars Attack actually was an idea that was brought up, I think, in 1984. It didn't get into fruition until, if that's the word, until 1994. Or 1984 was when it originally, and it took about 10 years. But while Burton told away on Mars Attack, Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich were writing an alien invasion movie of their own. But theirs was to be more serious. The duo knew that both pictures would be released at some point in the summer of 1996. As a quote, I said to Dean, we can't do our film after a parody comes out. We had to beat Burton to it, Emmerich recently said in an interview with The Guardian. If it came out on July 4th weekend, we would beat Mars Attack, which was coming out in August. So we wrote the concept around the release date, Independence Day. Let's just call it Independence Day when we come up with something better, or we could come up with something better later. And they obviously didn't, which I thought was kind of funny. And then the last one, this is the other one that you kind of hit the nail on the head, was it's based on a controversial set of trading cards. In 1962, Topps Company Incorporated, best known for the iconic baseball cards, infuriated quite a lot of parents by releasing some subversive new collectibles. Mars Attack was a bubblegum trading card series that chronicled a fictitious alien invasion. In total, there were 55 cards, each adorned with a grim painting by comic book artist Norman Saunders, and many of these images were downright unsettling. Granted, it was unsettling for 1962, which is PG nowadays. One card showed a giant insect decapitating a naked woman in the shower room. Another featured a dog being vaporized in front of its owner, a small child. Needless to say, Topps found itself in hot water over these. We started to get some bad publicity, recalls the series co-creator Lynn Brown. People asked, How could you put out such gory trading cards for little kids? Newspaper editorial slammed the franchise. A district attorney called Topps president Joel Shore to complain, and anger letters flooded the company's mailrooms. Within months, the set was discontinued, but American hadn't seen the last of Mars Attack despite the controversy. The gruesome cards won an underground following, and in 1984, the original 55 cards were reissued. Since then, Topps has put forth dozens of Mars Attacks productions, from new cards to comic books to action figures. Meanwhile, the first edition 1962 cards have become serious collector's items. In 2008, a mint condition copy of just one card sold for $3,600 at an auction. But those are my facts.
I am always confused by the ways in which people spend their money.
100%.
Also, Thomas J. Whitmore is still my president.
Same. R.I.P.
Movie wouldn't have been the same without that speech. But anyway, yeah, so this movie was interesting. The fact that it was based on a trading card series, I feel like it maintained the same amount of plot as a trading card series might. Like,
right.
So it was weird. And it was really hard to know what this movie was trying to do or be. I think at its heart, it was trying to be a dark comedy. I think that it also, like you kind of mentioned before, was obviously very influenced by kind of some of the old school sci-fi movies, which I generally like. But this one, one thing I like about the older sci-fi movies are like the practical effects. And I know that we've talked about that a lot, but just the idea, even, like with the old Twilight Zone, where you have to tell a compelling story to keep people engaged despite the non-sophistication of your special effects, I think. And I feel like a good, well-told story can do that. A dark comedy, I feel like that's a little harder, because in this one, it just kind of looked like half of it was a low budget version of a Pixar knockoff. Yeah,
I can see that. What I kind of felt with the movie was, and one of the facts I was reading was technically saying that Tim Burton wanted to initially do stop motion for him, which would have been pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But it was almost like they like just settled, I guess, for what they got. And it was like, because this is a comedy, we can kind of get away with the fact that these Martians look like it's almost like you had real life, in the background, and you just had like pictures on top that were Martians. So like when they were walking, it almost didn't even look like they were walking on the ground. They were more so like, I don't know. It was strange for me to see that, and like the animation of it. But at the same time, it was like, once you realize, oh, this is just a sci-fi comedy, it's like you could kind of take it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, okay, this isn't trying to be the scary, alien invasion movie, or anything like that, or where you have the big hero that saves the day, like Independence Day or whatever. Yeah. But it's still got what they want accomplished. Just imagine what would have happened if this came out before Independence Day.
Right.
Who knows?
It was there were some things about it, the setup, that I thought were kind of interesting. Like the very beginning, it was just random scenes of different people all around the country. And it was just like, let's showcase all of our A-list actors in different scenarios. Let's establish character for them. And a lot of them were like really sleazy and unlikable, which it was kind of weird to see some of them in those roles. But then the president comes on and makes an announcement that the country is surrounded by UFOs from Mars. And so then you see like the different reactions to that around the world. And it was kind of funny, I thought, to see the way that different people reacted to it, or like the way that the movie portrayed different sort of like genres of people reacting to it. And, there was all this talk about like the Martians being a very advanced civilization with a very high level of technology, and sort of the academic, like projecting, I value technology and intelligence, so I'm projecting this onto this group that's coming. And then the president and his wife are like, yeah, we're better than them. I don't want that nasty thing in my kitchen. You know, like that type of reaction. Like everybody sort of had like a different idea in their head. And it seemed very, I don't know, like a very human perspective, just to be like, I clearly have this situation figured out. Here's how it's going to work, and being like just confident and moving on from that.
Right.
Whereas, you know, then the obviously the Martians came to Earth and all hell broke loose, and the people obviously weren't in control. But that premise of what are our expectations of like the unknown, and taking it from oh yeah, we think everything's going to be fine, we're not worried, and now the situation has turned horrific and dangerous. That was like, I liked that turn in the storyline of the movie. The problem was that was the only turn in the storyline of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like, talking about the premise of like how they're taking it on, I also, what I thought was the funny part was, you know, the aliens were basically like, no, we'll just say we come in peace and we'll, you know, everything's good. And then all of a sudden it's complete opposite, you know, and so no one really knows what to do, which I think is like a legit reaction that would happen if, you know, aliens came to, you know, the world. You know, I think it'd just be like, you would have the people saying like, we need to work with them, and other people saying we need to nuke them. Mm-hmm. It's like, that was right on the money. I think for me, I definitely liked the president, like, could be swayed kind of easily.
Yeah. And in spite of all the evidence, he was just like, yeah, it's
right.
fine.
Yeah. And then, it was just, it was just like, oh, I wonder if that's like a statement, you know, but, you know, who knows? But, it was just kind of funny because it's like, oh, that's 100% what would happen. Like, you would have these people saying, oh no, they come in peace, and, you know, all that. But then I also like thought it was funny. Like they were doing some of the stuff which I thought was funny, like the characters, how they dealt with them, with, you know, Pierce Brosnan's character wanting to work with them stuff, but they were also like using technology that was like super old, considered, you know, it's supposed to be an older film, but it was just like, you know, where they had to record it and then play it back.
Right.
And I thought the whole time that the message was going to be off or something. So like, it was just kind of keeping you, I guess, on your toes, like waiting for the laugh instead of like waiting to be scared, you know, like we're used to, or to be startled. This is like kind of waiting for the laugh.
I was, like you mentioned, the playing back the tape recording and like what they were saying didn't match at all what they were doing. I was waiting for some kind of like, oh, the machine's off, or, you know, like some kind of acknowledgement that they had just been not understanding it the whole time. That didn't happen. So maybe the idea was that the aliens understood our perceptions of things well enough to tell us the thing that would make us stand still long enough to shoot. But that was kind of weird to me that it never really did anything with that. Yeah,
I thought, you know, it was, what I just imagined was going to happen was they were going to, like, it was going to come out, the guy who created it had no idea what he was doing. Like, it was going to be, like, that was going to be the one thing that they were like, well, if we had known, you know, it would have been his fault. But it never got to that point. But, I was definitely hoping that would happen.
Yeah.
It's almost like this kind of almost reminded me like of a Mel Brooks movie in a way.
Yes. 100%.
I love Mel Brooks movies. So it was almost like kind of hit home in a way, you know, where I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
Well, there were parts of it that to me came across as much more like almost like a sketch comedy type show.
Yeah, 100%.
It was just like we're in the writer's room, just like throwing stuff out there. Like, what are some silly things aliens might do on Earth? Well, what if they went bowling on Easter Island? Right. What if they took a picture of themselves in front of the Taj Mahal while they blow it up? What if they carve their own faces in Mount Rushmore? Let's keep all of it. These are great ideas.
Yeah. That works. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wish I could be in that writer's room.
Yeah. We got time to fill, boys. Keep them coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, I think you're exactly right. It was meant to be more comedy and less serious and less horror. I think that a key element of horror is being able to put yourself into the shoes of the people on the screen and like feel the fear or desperation on their behalf. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in this one, they very, very early on established the just like the cadence of human encounters alien. Human thinks that this time the alien won't shoot them, but they do. And so then it's like, well, that's just going to happen for the rest of the movie. So there's not really any suspense or mystery or, building of anticipation or fear. It's just like, it kind of reminded me of Gremlins.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think it would be like a safe movie that's sort of horrific. That, like, if you want your kids to be interested in horror movies when they grow up, like, you could watch this with them and not have them be traumatized. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's strange because, like, I didn't even really realize that this was Tim Burton film. But then after watching it, it's like, I can kind of see, like, I could see it with, the soundtrack was kind of a giveaway, but just some of the things that he had done, and it was like, oh, okay, so this kind of can go in the category of, like, Batman and, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, based off of when I was a kid, Beetlejuice. And it's like, I get, like, why he would have taken on this role for film-wise, because it's, Beetlejuice is its, like, own separate kind of category of movie, that is kind of raunchy comedy in a way, and with the other films, but yeah, it was just it just my thing though is it just took me time to get there. Like, once I kind of caught, like, what was going on, because I, like I said, I had only watched bits and pieces of it. Once I kind of caught on, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get what's happening here. Up until that point, I was almost a little frustrated with it because it's like, this isn't a horror film, kind of thing, if we're doing on there. But at the end of it, I was super happy we did it. Like, I was like, oh, cool. This is, not saying it's the greatest film of all time. I'm just saying I accepted it by the end of it. Right.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the best part of in my notes I have, best part of the movie was the alien robot lady who bit off Martin Short's finger and spit it into the fish tank while invading the White House. Yeah. That scene was legit pretty creepy. Yeah. It just didn't last very long or turn into much. But then I also had in my notes, false. The best part of the movie was the Tom Jones live performance.
Hey, man, you ain't shitting about that.
I like Tom Jones. He's got some bangers.
Yeah, of course. She's the lady? Yeah. You talking about she's a... Yeah. That slaps hard.
It does.
It doesn't matter what year he sings it in either.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think we could, in our music opinions no one cares about podcast that we start next, we'll do an episode about how Tom Jones was the template for third wave ska, but don't have time for that now. Worst part of this movie was the scene where the aliens put the dog's head on Sarah Jessica Parker's body.
Yes. Oh my God. Here's what I had, like, my beef. Well, here's what I think made me enjoy this movie more, was it had those terrible, like, CGI, like, that we are used to seeing from our 90s movies that we'd watch. So, like, like the dog, like Sarah Jessica's head on the dog, like those just terrible effects, and it's like, it just hits home for me, where it's like, there's back to my Nickelodeon days kind of thing, where you just, like, super terrible. So, like, when I was watching, I was like, oh my God, this is a 90s movie. Like, I love it, just from the fact that it's bringing me back home to when I was a kid, and I definitely enjoyed it. But then watching it as an adult, because I didn't even necessarily watch this for the podcast. Like, I have no notes. Once I realized...
I had very few.
Yeah, once I realized what this movie was about, I was like, nah, not going to do it. I'm just going to sit here and just watch it, And once I did that, I think that was also like a little... weight lifted off the shoulder. But I was just, once I watched it as an adult, it's like, okay, well, Sarah Jessica Parker's character super annoyed me. I didn't get, Pierce Brosnan. I mean, it was just, there was a few things that was like, character-wise, that I thought was kind of strange. But then they throw in the crazy guy from Las Vegas, and it's like, like, it took me a second to realize, like, who that was, I think. I mean, the voice sounded just like him, but...
Yeah, Sarah got it before I did. So.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah. But,
along those lines, I almost wondered if maybe they expanded some of those parts based on who they got to be involved. Because I think some of them had more screen time definitely than they should have based on the role. And so I wonder if maybe the script was punched up a little bit to give a little bit more focus to some of the minor characters because they were able to book such big acts for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'd put money on it that that's exactly what happened. It was one of those things where once the celebrities started coming in, they were able to get, some big, because like Michael J. Fox in the 90s, that's when he was doing he's real big.
Huge,
and so I'm sure there were things in there that were like, has to have 15 minutes of screen time or something like that.
Right, yeah.
And then you have like Jack Black in it, a young Jack Black. And it's like, I love Jack Black. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I just love Jack Black.
His enthusiasm for life.
I guess so. And you hear people say this, but I do feel like he would be cool just to hang out with. Mm-hmm. Like, just kind of, hey, come over, hang out. Let's, whatever. He'd be super cool. So he was in it. And I was like, even though he played like this redneck character, whatever, it was still,
Yeah. So, one thing I totally forgot about in his scenes in the beginning, we've totally played a show in Perkinsville, Kansas, right?
I think,
or like at least stopped at a bar there on the way to a show or something.
Yes.
Like, that was just so funny because I'm like, yep, this all tracks 1,000% of my memories of Kansas and driving through Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That, I don't remember when, but it was something to that effect of, or I don't know, it was some small town in Kansas, but we were always in Kansas.
And they all kind of look the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also liked how like they used the guns against them. Here, I actually think is what I thought was kind of more the funniest thing. Not like I was laughing throughout this whole film because I don't laugh. It's not my thing, in movies, but,
or in life.
Yeah, for sure. But how they could die so easily, right? So it was just like, I just felt like all you had to do was like hit their dome with a bullet, and it's like these aliens that are just like wiping the earth. It's like,
yeah,
well, it's not that difficult to kill them. I mean, Jim Brown punched him in the head and killed him real fast.
He could have killed me with that hit.
Who like has to be the MVP of the film?
Oh yeah.
Like his character, my favorite character of all. But, like, I wish that we could go back and have a movie with the angry Korean from Train to Busan and him.
Oh,
just
yeah.
Like a zombie movie where they're just like, nope, punch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, I don't know. And then I guess, my thing was trying to figure out how they would actually like end the film. I guess it's like, is it going to be like one of those where it's just like, it's all over with, like they kill them all or whatever. But, to kind of jump into scenes real quick. I think one of my favorites that doesn't involve, Jim Brown punching like aliens is the one where the president or whoever of France calls Jack Nicholson. He's like, hey, good news. I talked him down. Like, and he's like, no, you need to get out there. And the next thing you know, they're dead. It's like they're just sitting there at the table kind of looking like almost kind of happy, the aliens. And like, so he's talking, not bragging, but like, hey, we did it. Like we were able to, and it's like, no, you didn't. Completely gone.
Yeah. My favorite part of the movie was basically, I think, the core theme, which is one that I feel like we can all learn from and take away and kind of find some comfort in. And I think that with where we're at now, technology and, smartphones, laptops, everything, it's really easy to forget just because there's so much noise out there. But you listen to me right now, kids. No matter how bad things get, Grandma's music can still save you.
That's a good point. Grandma's music can still save you, and 99% sure that she has a hidden bottle of alcohol in some cabinet. At least if you were my grandma, you would.
Win-win.
The thing with this movie, too, basically, though, it is pretty straightforward. Aliens attack Earth.
Yeah.
Kill a bunch of people. You have some survivors. You have some people who die that you don't necessarily expect. I think Jack Nicholson did a great job. Just because... It's like how, like that guy's insane with his acting. And I don't know why, like it's not like I don't necessarily pay attention to like actors and how well they act. I think it's because I don't know how to, but I guess I act happy on some days, but I'm lonely, man. Like, it's crazy because the way he's acting is not like this is a comedy whatsoever. With some of the scenes, and it's this is great. This is I love this this acting style.
I bet that guy's got some stories.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm the reason why I got Sarah Jessica Parker onto this film.
Yeah.
So I guess to end this podcast, the only question we have, because we both half-assed this Mars Attacks movie that your wife tried to sabotage our podcast with. Do aliens exist?
So I actually happen to know for a fact that
and that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.